Barry Morphew had it all, a millionaire's golden crown, big house in the Rockies, king of a small town. But darkness brewed in his heart, a secret cold as stone. Suzanne went missing, her fate he would never own. In a shallow grave marked by one lone tree, under Colorado stars where no one would see, with a shovel and lies he buried his sin. But the truth has a way of creeping back in. Oh, Barry, you ran to Cave Creek, Arizona, hiding in a biker bar, waiting for your secret bust. From riches to ruins, a trailer park throne. Now you're locked in a cage, forever alone. He fled to Arizona to outrun the law. Or was it his own guilt, secret wish to be caught? With villains before him, real desert outlaws hide. The ghost of Suzanne whispers to him all through the night. Suzanne would get her justice, things would be made right. For King Barry in his camper cage, no escape from justice light. From a mansion to an airstream, his empire now shattered dreams. Barry now alone with no home, no friends, a man who's lost everything. Suzanne took her time, the chess pieces in place. As Barry hid in fear, Suzanne prepared her case. They would find her body abandoned in a shallow grave, and Barry's murderous acts revealed by an insane path. Oh, Barry, you ran to Cave Creek, Arizona, hiding in a biker bar, a place that made him feel ever lonelier. From riches to ruins, a trailer park throne. Now you're locked in a cage, forever alone. In a cell with killers, thieves by his side. No more mountain sunsets, no place to hide. The elk still wander where Suzanne was laid. Her light shines bright, it will never fade.
Barry Morphew, 10/17/67.
Thank you, sir. And it does look like you are here today on a warrant from the state of Colorado, and they have indicated that they want to extradite you.
All right. That is Barry Morphew, and he's going back to Colorado to face the charges for the murder of his wife, Suzanne. All right. Now then, so were there red flags? Why am I still like, sorry about that. Were there red flags that would signal this long marriage where there was a lot of animosity, a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting that had built up through the years, a lot of broken hearts, a lot of infidelity, a lot of lies? How do you know when it could get dangerous, violent, if you will? Because the truth is, there's a lot of people that are in bad marriages. There's a lot of people that fight and argue and still stay together, and it doesn't result in a terrible murder. So what's the difference between just being in what is an abusive relationship that goes on for years and years and years, as opposed to, where there's finally a terrible act of violence, whether it is murdering your spouse or whether it is filicide, where the children are killed, like in the case of Chris Watts and Travis Decker. Are there, in fact, signs? Are there suggestions for when a person might know that, no, we're not just unhappy. We may actually be in danger if we continue to stay in the same house. And there are actually. So domestic violence, physical assault, emotional manipulation, all of it is abuse. And people have they have like their favorite tactics that they like to use when it comes to abuse. But it is much different to assess abuse as opposed to somebody coming forward, let's say a judge, who says, what are the chances that this relationship is going to end up with someone being mortally wounded, right? And so how do you get to that point that you consider, is this just a bad relationship that's not working, or are we actually going to get to a level of murder or real physical assault? So there are specific patterns of behavior. There's also pre-existing risk factors that can come into play, that two marriages, all things might be exactly equal in terms of the same amount of infidelity, the same amount of fighting, the same amount of alcohol use. One of them may have a history of child abuse and the other one had a great childhood growing up. That will dramatically change the outcome of a dangerousness assessment. So considering the different red flags and key factors that would shine a spotlight on a heightened chance of violence is it relies on a lot of established research, expert guidelines, and a lot of experience. So there are a lot of different signs or activities, things that people engage in that are considered abusive, but we're really, really, really focusing on violence, death, and did Suzanne and Barry, were there some of these risk factors evident in their relationship? And when I really started putting this out in an organized way, I actually was really taken back. There was a lot that was going on between them that somebody could have stepped in and said, you guys need to separate. You guys need to get far away from one another just to get grounded, just to take a deep breath and get away from this, open wound that you both have. And it is highly possible, if they had done that she would be alive today, and perhaps they could have even repaired what had gone so terribly wrong in the family. So dissatisfaction is something that is all, it's in bad marriages, right? Dissatisfaction happens. Even in good marriages, people get dissatisfied. The key, though, when you're doing one of these assessments, is the level of dissatisfaction. Is it related to perceived loss of control? Are people feeling like their lives are tumbling out of control and they don't have any way to reach out and pull it back and take control again? If the interactive effect of perceived loss of control with dissatisfaction is there as just a foundation, right there, huge red flag for potential violence. I think that there were very real signs of that with Barry and Suzanne. And again, let me make this really clear. I don't know them. I never spoke to either one of them. I'm only talking about what is evident in the reporting and the historical accounting of this couple. And I'm just talking about what might have happened. That's all. I'm just talking about just theories of what could have happened. So, do you remember when Suzanne and her best friend were staying at the big house on the mountain? Barry had been in Arizona for a couple of weeks hunting. And when he came back, he parked really far away from the house and he snuck up to the house and was basically like peering into the window at them. And they did not know that he was there. He was spying on them. He was like being a peeping Tom. Well, if that story is true, and we kind of have to take it at face value, because I think law enforcement didn't exactly believe that story, but nevertheless, it is the story that Barry told, which tells me he probably was doing this a lot. And that's why the story came up so easily for him as an excuse. But he said he didn't want them to see him. He was dirty and sweaty, and he didn't want the friend to see him like that. It's nonsense. I think it's more likely that Barry was spying on Suzanne. I think he was trying to see what really was going on. I think he knew that there was an affair. I think he knew that her actions were not normal, that she wasn't behaving well, but he didn't have the proof, right? He didn't have anything concrete that he could say, look, I'm not crazy. This is real. And you're driving me crazy by denying it and telling me that it's not real. I think that, in my estimation, that does sound like he felt a loss of control, right? That if he feels like he has to resort to sneaking around and looking into the windows of his own house, he had to have been pretty desperate to try and find out, is this really happening? There were other times that happened as well. Remember when they were at a resort, and Barry took her phone and ran away with it. Like, it's like childlike, right? It's kind of weird to think about a grown man stealing your phone and then running away and refusing to give it back to you. It's kind of childlike. But I do think that it really, really reflects on him feeling completely out of control. He's a guy who is hyper controlled. He's a guy who micromanages everything. And I think that it must have been, incredibly frustrating that he was left with a big question mark in his mind. Am I going crazy, or is she really? Right? So I think definitely there was dissatisfaction with a perceived loss of control. A partner who isolates the other one from friends, family, or support systems. Some people have said, and I'm kind of on the fence with this, okay? The reason I'm on the fence with this next point is because of Suzanne's sister. Suzanne's sister said Suzanne wanted to be in the log cabin in the mountains. She was excited about a new chapter in her life. She went shopping and bought furniture and decorated the house in the way that she wanted. So I'm not sure about the idea that Barry isolated her, that he took her off into the mountains, and now she was completely isolated from her church support group, from her, high school friends, from her, obviously, a very close family. I'm a little, I can see that on the surface. Like, it's kind of in your face. It's big, right? Of course he isolated her. Look at where he took her, in the middle of nowhere, and there's terrible cell phone service. I would agree with all of the above. But why would her sister lie? Why would her sister go on television and say Suzanne was excited about the log cabin? Suzanne was motivated for the move. Suzanne felt like it was a second chance. Now, I think eventually she realized that it was the same old Barry doing the same old crap, and she was done. Threats to kill. Now, this is really important, and this confuses some people sometimes. Threats to kill their partner, threats to kill themselves, or even to kill others, like to do like a mass shooting. If someone comes in and they say, I'm in this horrible, unhappy marriage, my wife or my husband is fooling around and they have boyfriends and girlfriends, and I'm just going to do myself in. I'm over it. I'm done. Right there, immediately, we are considering this is a potential homicide situation. Even though the person is saying, I want to end my life, there's such a thin, fine line between homicide and suicide that you're really not assessing for only one of them. They can and very often do happen together, like in the case of murder-suicide, right? Same thing with the mass shootings. Those are people that feel completely out of control in their lives. They feel like they've lost everything. Their identity has been crushed. And sometimes they feel like they're being victimized by someone. And so to do the bigger shooting, it kind of takes it out of their hands. It forces the cops to do the dirty work in terms of ending their life. I think Barry had a big ego and felt it was a blow to his masculinity if Suzanne was cheating because he saw her as his property. I think he definitely probably saw them as property, that he owned that. But I also think he used the model of religiosity to justify that. I think he embraced the idea that he would be head of household and that his daughters and his wife would be an extension of him, his property, and therefore it was somehow within his right to determine the family's path. Can you turn that fan so it's on me? It's kind of hot in here. Thank you. So I agree that he did objectify, especially Suzanne. Do you remember? And I just don't remember where I heard it, but someone said that Barry called Suzanne the body. Who remembers that? She was referred to as the body, which I guess, that would mean that, you're really fit and really beautiful and pretty. But isn't that objectifying to be reduced to just your simple body? That's not even the same thing as saying, oh, she's a beautiful woman. At least you would be a person, right? But you hear the body, it's very strong. Maybe it's high schoolish kind of humor, but it still is. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable as a woman. It's uncomfortable, right? So yeah, I think she was objectified, and I think she was very beautiful. Her whole friend group, were. Let's see. So threats to kill a partner, themselves, or others. Never forget. Oh yeah, terrible, Kelly. It's just complete objectification of her. Completely dehumanized her. She was just a body. She fulfilled a function of sexuality. He said that actually to Suzanne, that all the wife has to do is satisfy the man in terms of sexual pleasure, and then that's really the only thing there is to their relationship. He got all of his like his hobbies, the things he enjoyed, it was all being out in the woods by himself, hunting or doing his landscaping. he just the best way I can describe him is very 80-ish, zero charisma. You remember when you used to call people, oh, there's zero charisma, just no personality, not fun, not interesting, not even kind of quirky, just nothing, just flat, right? And I do think that that's a really good example or description of the way Barry has been characterized by people that he was on baseball teams with, people that he went to school with, other women that he messed around with. They all said the same thing about him. Shoshona, she said that he didn't talk. He was very, very, very quiet. I don't think Barry can relate to people. I don't think he even really has much interest in people, really. I mean, to tell your wife where you've had 2 children together to say, keep me happy sexually, and then you don't have to do anything else for me. That's all I need for us to keep the marriage together, is if you'll just have sex with me, and then I'll be out of your hair. Well, she didn't want him to be out of her hair. She wanted a friend. She wanted someone to laugh with and have fun with and spend time with. And he couldn't relate. He didn't understand that. He didn't get it. I think one of the things, let me pull this. What is that? Close. Let me open this up. Oh gosh, where did I do with it? I was going to show y'all this interview that he did. His body language is so shocking. Hold on, I'm pulling up. You guys just discuss and talk among yourselves as I. Okay, it is a Barry Morphew and daughters interview. Here it is. Let me make sure it's the whole thing. Let me get to the part I want to see. I was really, first time I saw this interview, like I had to stop and watch it multiple times. It was so peculiar. His body movements are so peculiar. And I even thought, like, when I was going through it so carefully, because it's such a strange physical presentation, I thought maybe they had changed like the timing on the film. Maybe they had slowed the film down, but that wasn't it at all, because the girls are moving normal speed. This is his movement. And it's very strange. It seems that he's kind of got this weird kind of out of touch proprioceptive sensory thing. And, is it pragmatic? Maybe there's someone behind the camera that is coaching him, right? But watch this. Really, really strange. I guess we can listen to it. Okay. There's a couple of things on this little clip that I want to point out, but the first thing that I want to point out is the movement of his body being so off, right? Okay, now when he turns to look at Mallory is the one with the blonde hair. She's the oldest. She is now the proud owner of a multi-million-dollar house in Noblesville. I don't know what that was about. Macy, she didn't get the house, or it wasn't even like put in both of their names. Neither one of them is married. It was just solely given to the one that Barry spends the whole interview looking at. While Macy, the young one with the dark hair, is just sort of a stand-in. He's zoned in on Mallory. But when he turns to look at Mallory, he seems to be normal body movements. Did they cut that out? That's weird. No, it's right here. They did cut it out. That is crazy. They did. See, they're not showing him as he turns and looks at her. Okay, why? What? Hold on. Let me find it. Let's see if this one. Okay, hold on 1 minute, y'all. I think I found it. That is so strange why they cut it out. I think I found it. Hold on. Yeah, right here. Here we go. I got it. Yay. So strange that they took it out of the other newscast. Okay. Now we can look at it. Sorry. Let me go backwards here.
Say he isn't a killer and are celebrating the dismissal of the case, now demanding District Attorney Linda Stanley should do more.
I just hope that Linda will step up to the plate and do everything she can to find our mom, because what they've done is not fair. And we're never going to stop looking for our mom.
Court filings say that
Now,
while authorities...
Her comments were dramatically different than Mallory's comments. Mallory, the older one, everything she said was, My dad didn't do it. My dad didn't do it. My dad did not do it. My dad did not do it. Everything. When she was talking, she was looking right into Barry's face and he's looking right into hers, right? When Macy speaks, she just sort of looks like, I don't want to say anything. And then you can tell someone is sort of directing them off camera. And she just says, we need to find my mom. Linda needs to find my mom. Talking about Linda Stanley, the district attorney. So this picture here, it kind of tells a story, doesn't it? It tells a story, and it's not just reading something into. I know, Diane, you and I, we're seeing something, right? When you look at this picture, you're seeing a couple. There's a couple in this picture. There's an alliance, and that alliance is Mallory and Barry. Now, Mallory and Barry have had, by reports, they've had a long friendship, right? Yes, it's her dad, but more important, she was kind of the son that he never had. So he doesn't like people. When he's in church, he doesn't talk to people. When they would go out with friends, Suzanne did all the talking, Barry, nothing. If he did talk, only with the guys, but even then, it was one word responses. He is a real introvert, and he's most comfortable out in the woods alone. That's where he feels competent. So Mallory would go with him on these hunting trips. Even when they were living in Indiana, the two of them would load up, take off to Colorado or Wyoming, and spend a couple of weeks in the backcountry hunting, doing their thing. And I know there's a lot of people that have made some unsavory suggestions, and that in no way is what I'm talking about. Please don't even think I'm close to that. I'm only talking about the alliance. It is very clear to see in this picture, in this moment, in this video, it is very clear to see who Barry feels comfortable with. Have you ever seen the guy smile? Ever? In all of these videos that you've seen, has he ever smiled? No. The smile is really reserved for Mallory for the most part. I will say that when we went to the preliminary hearing, when we walked in, he was standing there. I thought it was really weird that they let him stand up in the courtroom. He's a defendant, a murder defendant, but there were no sheriff deputies near him. And he's standing up and he's like beside the table and he's looking back toward the door where everybody is coming in and sitting down, right? Like he would be like the preacher and everybody's coming in to sit down in the pews of church. He's standing there and he's watching people come in, and you could see where, like with his daughters, he'd look over and wink at them or smile. They were having just tiny little kind of nonverbal type communications, nothing weird or unusual. But the thing that was unusual to me is that when we walked in, there was a moment of recognition on his face, like he knew who I was. Like you could see it kind of register in his head, and he smiled. He didn't know. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like familiar, like, oh, hey, I know you. Not like that. It was like, it was like a way that you would like smile like at a Walmart greeter or cash register lady, right? It's kind of just this weird little smile. But then you could see that he hit something. There was recognition in his eyes, and he started looking at me kind of like inquisitively. I got the feeling he was looking like, okay, I recognize this person. I don't know who they are. And you could definitely see when it hit him who I was. Like the light bulb went off, you know what I mean? And it definitely changed. His whole affect changed, and he was like, "Oh, I know who this is." And at that point, then it was an all-out grin, and I was like, "This is very creepy." And I had somebody sit next to me that I made friends with. And when he smiled like that, I just had this terrible. He's a weird. You just feel like you want to be away from him. He is really uncomfortable. Like it's not natural. There's something, I don't know if he's just just dramatically withdrawn and introverted, but he's really, really cringy, and you feel uncomfortable. Like when he's looking at you, you feel very strange. And the second day, I was the last person that was being allowed into the courtroom. And so Vanessa from Unmasked, she was there. We made friends. She was standing behind me. And so I told her, I said, you go in here, you go into the actual courtroom. I'm going to go out to where they had out at the Fair Barns. They had like a big screen TV set up for extra seating. And I said, I want you to go in because I want you to feel how odd he feels. I said, I want to know if I'm being weird or if you actually feel it. You see what I'm talking about? She's like, oh, okay. Well, first she was like, no, you got to go in. And I was like, no, I've already been in. I want to know what your reaction is to him. If you have the same visceral kind of recoil, right? Like if I had met him like in a dance hall, a bar or something like that, if I had met him just friendly chit chat, which would have been easy to do because he's a handsome guy in real life, he's a really good looking guy, I would have been immediately going, oh, weird, what's wrong with the dude, get me away. Like there's some kind of energy about him that is not normal. It's not normal. So when we had our break, when the court took a break, she messaged me and she said, oh my God, he's so weird. And I was like, right? And she said that I think that she was sitting like right behind Macy and Mallory and one other girl, like one of their friends maybe. And Vanessa was sitting behind them. And she said that he turned around to look at his daughters, and he kind of looked at her for a second, and she described the exact same feeling. Something's wrong with him. Like he feels like you can feel that he's not normal, that he's not right. It was a very strange experience, a bad experience, not a good one at all, but a bad one. So if we watch this body language now, you can see the alliance. They both are buddies. They're ride or die. This girl right here, she is never going to abandon him. He is her foundation. And notice how their hands are. Notice she's actually holding on to him. She is mothering him. She's being his rock. She's holding his hand tight. She's saying it's going to be okay. She stares deep into his eyes and she says, we know you. We know you didn't do this. You're going to be okay. You can just see it. She's being his protector. She is never, ever going to believe the prosecutors. Never. It won't happen. It's a very strange thing, though, when you look at his hand holding Macy's hand. Completely different. And, you know, her fingers are just kind of there. She's not like grasping onto his hand like we see with Mallory, who's almost white knuckling it, right? She's just kind of like, okay. And her arm is bent in an uncomfortable, strange way, like, okay, do I have to do this? But where are her eyes? While Barry and Mallory are having this really intense moment of, we're together, we're family, we're ride or die, best friends, no one's going to tear us apart. Is Macy in that dynamic? What are you guys seeing? And her body is turned toward him. Absolutely. Mallory's body is turned all the way toward Barry. Her legs even were moved in that direction, as compared to Macy, who even kept her legs crossed. And, she kind of, at one point, she sort of leans back and away just a little bit. And it was Macy who told her mother that she needed to get a restraining order against Barry. It was Macy, the young one with the dark hair. She told her mom to leave the house before Suzanne told Barry that she was filing for divorce. Macy knew, she lived it. Remember, Mallory was graduated from high school. She was going to college when all this happened. In fact, she had already gone off to college before they bought the house and moved to Salida. They said that, I think it was Andy Mormon, Suzanne's brother, who said that part of the decision to leave Indiana and move to Salida was so that they would be close to Mallory. And I thought, I might do that. I'm really, really close with both my kids. I wouldn't, I probably spend way too much money on an airplane flying back and forth to my daughter's house. My son lives nearby, so, we don't have to do that. But it wasn't a weird or unusual thought that they would make that choice to move closer to Mallory, especially if Macy had decided that she too wanted to go to school in Colorado, right? So it wasn't unusual. And I can't tell you enough, their house, their property, when I say they were living in heaven, that is not hyperbole. I'm just using the word heaven because I'm limited for a more appropriate word. It is a stunning property. The surrounding area, the lot itself, I think the lot is 7 acres, if I remember, 7-8 acres. There's an aspen grove. There's a amazing mountain stream that runs through a river that runs through it. It's gorgeous. You just can't even imagine. It's a place that movie stars would buy. It's really, really something. So the fact that they could be, an hour away from their daughter, living in a stunning, absolutely beautiful area that you just sit outside and just enjoy nature. Barry would have access to the thing that he was most comfortable with, which was the hunting and the outdoors. I'm sure that when they made the decision to do it, that Suzanne was really excited and that she was going on her next great adventure, which is what her sister said in an interview. So I thought this was really an interesting moment that you can see so clearly Macy, the one that asked her mom to get a restraining order, the one that said, you need to be out of the house before you tell dad that there's going to be a divorce, the one who said they needed a divorce. Macy said they needed to get a divorce. You still see the doubt, right? Do you guys see doubt in her face? Or am I kind of projecting onto her? You see, he's using the blonde, and the brunette is sad and confused, but is going along to survive the grief. Yeah, I mean, how she ends up with nothing, right? If she accepts that maybe he did somehow, maybe accidentally hurt her mom, then who is she at that point? She doesn't have the people that they're closest to are Barry, his mom, Shirley, and then the aunts and cousins on Barry's side. They really didn't have much of a relationship with the Mormon side. I think Andy Mormon was very clear that he wanted that relationship, that his father, his family wanted that relationship. But for whatever reason, it happened. So she wouldn't just be saying, yeah, I think my dad probably did hurt my mom. She would actually end up being completely alone and without family, because it is Barry's family, his mom, her grandma, that they're all close to. So she didn't really, I don't think she had much of a choice. I think she did what she had to do and is probably still doing that. But I do think you can definitely see the love and the bonding that is real exists between Mallory and Barry. I mean, and the fact that she was the one that went off on these hunting trips with Barry, she became the son that Barry didn't have. So, and then we're going to watch Macy here, because it wasn't just this moment. Pay attention to just her face.
Been silent for a long time.
So even once she starts talking, she's not like pulling herself out of it. She's just listening.
We've been silent for a long time, and we've decided that we finally want to break the silence.
And I felt like this little look that she gives right here, that she sort of tears her thoughts away from Suzanne and kind of looks at her sister like, you got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. What are you talking about?
And we've decided that we finally want to break the silence.
It's a kind of a skeptical look, isn't it? It's kind of a like, really? Are you sure? So, and then I think there's going to be a couple of more little uncomfortable moments, but pay attention to Barry. He's looking at Mallory. He's shaking his head. Everything looks just normal. Nothing weird. But when he turns his head to look at Macy, things get weird.
This morning, just days before the second anniversary murder charges,
we feel like we can finally take our first steps in healing, which is a blessing. And yeah, we just know our dad better than anyone else. And we know he was not involved in our mom's disappearance.
Mallory and Macy Morphew standing by their father, who investigators
and notice during all this, he hasn't turned to look at Macy at all.
Believed was responsible for their mother's disappearance 2 years ago. The three seen walking out of court arm in arm just moments after the charges against him were dropped.
We want to heal. We feel like we haven't been able to heal these past 2 years.
The family says Suzanne left her Colorado.
Even that haven't been able to heal these past.
Even that was weird. Watch Macy.
We want to heal.
Watch her.
We feel like we haven't been able to heal these past 2 years.
She's not buying this. I mean, Mallory's, she's there. She is advocating for Barry. She is saying with no questions asked, I am all in. This is my dad. He's innocent. I love him. And Macy's like, this is weird.
Years.
The family says Suzanne left her Colorado home for a bike ride, but never returned.
I just love my girls. And I love my wife. I just want her to be found.
But investigators told a different story.
Now, I was really uncomfortable with this, and here's why. One of the things that the behavioral people will tell you is unbroken gaze is a sign of lying, right? Because so many people used to say, oh, well, if you blink, if you blink, then you're lying. And so liars modified their body language. And when they tell you a lie, they kind of get like this really piercing gaze, and they make a point not to blink. And Barry does that. So watch.
Wife. I just wanted to be.
Now watch his eyes. He's been talking. He hasn't blinked yet. Keep watching. And he changes his shaking the head no to shaking the head yes.
He found.
But investigators told a different story.
You see how long he held his eyes open without blinking? He's sending a message. He's saying, I'm not lying. I'm not lying, even though he was
arresting Barry Morphew.
And right there, you see how Barry's hand is on the policeman's arm? He's saying, let me go. I'll give you money. He tried to bribe them.
Charges ranging from first-degree murder to tampering with physical evidence. Prosecutors argued that Morphew discovered his wife was having an affair, then murdered her, disposed of her body, and staged a bike crash in a rural area, releasing this body camera footage.
And for those of you that are really just kind of getting into this murder of Suzanne Morphew, there was no bike ride. That was a ruse that Barry made up. That he laid out the evidence. He made directive statements to police and others, 911, well, not 911, but the neighbors, to lead them all to assume that she had gone on a bicycle ride. There was no bicycle ride. It wasn't there. Didn't happen. The telematics on the truck, the phone calls, it isn't possible that Suzanne went on a bicycle ride.
From the hours after she was reported missing, police saying Morphew touched evidence.
Hey, could you not touch the bike with your hands, please?
Morphew's daughters say he isn't a killer and are celebrating the dismissal.
Oh, he isn't a killer? The girls said, my dad is not a killer. Go into Barry Morphew's garage. He's a killer. No question, he's a killer.
Dismissal of the case. Now demanding District Attorney Linda.
Watch his body language when he turns to look at Macy. This is crazy.
Isn't a killer and are celebrating the dismissal of the case. Now demanding District Attorney Linda Stanley should do more.
What is that? And look at the expression on his face compared to when he was looking at Mallory. What do you guys think of that? That is a question, St. Elmo. We don't know. It appears, and you have to be really careful because you don't know the reality of this unless somebody brings you documents. It appears that, okay, so the girls did get their inheritance, or not inheritance, the life insurance money from Suzanne's death. They received their life insurance money in October, I believe, of last year. Barry did not get any of the insurance money. They wouldn't pay him. The girls got theirs. And then I think they must have gotten it like in August. And then in October, they did. Barry and his mom owned a house in Noblesville. Shirley signed over, did a quitclaim deed to Barry. And then Barry turned around and handed the house legally over to Mallory. Did not include Macy in that transaction. For all intent purposes, it looks like Macy's been like disinherited. Turned the expensive house over to Mallory. And then this part we also don't know to be fact, but apparently someone believes that Mallory then gave her cash to Barry. There's no verification of that. We don't know that's real, even though if you go like over to Reddit, people all over Reddit are talking about that and saying that that's what happened. But nobody's shown, I haven't seen any documentation that would show that. There's the documentation that the house was signed over. There's the documentation that they received the life insurance money, but not in there is no documentation that the money was given then to Barry. Now, he was living in a tiny little camper RV home park. You might ask yourself, how was he living? I don't know. And nobody has any information. Nobody's been able to find any documentation that he was even working in Arizona. So it's kind of a mystery right now. What was he doing? Was he just sitting in the RV knowing that eventually they were going to come arrest him? I mean, look, y'all, the day that they found Suzanne's body, Barry had a bad day that day. That was the end of life for Barry Morphew. He knew the day that she was found, that was the fat lady singing. That was it. He knew they were coming. So is that what was happening? That he was just hiding in the camper, waiting for the inevitable? It's hard to know. And he doesn't talk. So I wouldn't expect that he's going to get a sudden, pang of conscience and decide to speak out and say, I did it and it was horrible and I didn't mean it and I'm sorry and I'm willingly going to jail. And he's not gonna do that. They're gonna end up going through a whole trial. In fact, some of that narcissist stuff is probably in there exerting pressure, saying to him, hey, I got off before. I got away with it before they found her body. I could get away with it again. I mean, that's just kind of how they believe, right? The home was not given to Macy. She does not own the house. Mallory owns it. The blonde girl that you can see the affection that he has. She's the sole owner of the house. Not even the grandma, not even Barry's mom is on that document. The house is 100% Mallory's. Now, is there a difference in the way Barry looks at Macy compared to the way he looks at Mallory? What do you guys think? Do you see a difference? And I want to be super clear too. This is not about Macy and Mallory, the two kids. They did nothing wrong. These girls did nothing wrong at all. We're just talking about Barry only. It's kind of uncomfortable how stern he looks at her, isn't it? He looks crazy to me, like he's wearing a mask. I mean, maybe Karen, I think that's all he's got are masks. I don't think there's anyone who knows the real Barry. I don't even think Barry knows who he is. Macy doesn't believe the BS. She seems skeptical to me, which could, if that's true and it's not just me projecting onto her, that could make things easier for her in the end, right? It could help her kind of regain her foundation and move forward. But Mallory, she is brokenhearted about her dad. So, Macy's kind of still got that bit of a skeptical look, but the main thing was Barry and the sternness that he looks at her, like really kind of controlling. And again, watch the body language. Watch how he moves his head toward her. It's so mechanical and clumsy. It's like his eyes move first and then his head follows. It's almost like he doesn't know how to look at her, how to connect with her. Really weird. I'll show it again. It's very
dismissal of the case, now demanding District Attorney Linda Stanley should do more.
Was Okay, I gotta ask. If I'm being weird, if that looked perfectly normal, put a 1. If you thought that it looked very mechanical and strange the way he moves his head, put a 2. Yeah, his face is definitely distorted. He gave the house to Mallory, the girl with the blonde hair, not to Macy. Okay, so I'm not the only one. Yeah, these girls are 100% victims. No, they need to be protected. Yeah, they need to have victims advocates to help them and all that. They did nothing wrong. Does he drink? He didn't used to drink. Like it was people were, no, he didn't drink. He hated drugs. See, this is the paradox. He hated drinking. He hated drugs. He wouldn't even let, so Suzanne got some land as part of her inheritance. And Andy, her brother, and his sons, they were using all of their land to grow hemp, not marijuana, but to get it for hemp, right? And so Andy was telling Suzanne, we can plant crops on your part of the land, and then we'll take care of the crops and stuff, and you don't have to do anything, but you'll make money off of it, right? It's a pretty easy deal. I mean, it's like growing hay, right? Barry said no, because he said it was drugs, and he wasn't going to let her like make money off the drugs. It was her land, but he made the decision that she would not be allowed to grow a cash crop on her land because he said it was the same as drugs. It's absolutely true. Somebody said he looks like a predator. That's why it looked strange when he turned around. Maybe. I don't know. Let me look again.
Celebrating the dismissal of the case, now demanding District Attorney Linda Stanley should do more.
I just hope that Linda will step up to the plate and do everything she can to find our mom, because what they've done is not fair.
Ooh, very powerful. So powerful. Mallory says, we know our dad. We know him better than anyone. He did not do this. She uses her talking time to really, really, really send the message. Her dad is 100% innocent. When Macy speaks, it is, we just need to find my mom. We just need to find her. All right. It's very emotional, isn't it? Super sad. All right. I don't think he would be out on bond this time. Macy for sure can get away. Mal will be the one who will be putting money into his account. I mean, you're probably right. I just hope that Macy, I hope she can find a way back to some of Suzanne's people, either her best friends, Suzanne's friends, or even the, Andy Mormon's family, right? I'm not going to say anything else about it. Okay. I talked about dissatisfaction, specific dissatisfaction related to the feeling that you've lost control, the feeling that you are being controlled by other people or other things. If that perceived loss of control, the frustration, is accompanied by already a pattern of violence, like hitting or threats or pushing, then the likelihood of lethality dramatically increases. And we've got a boatload of research on these 3 points: dissatisfaction, perceived loss of control, and an established pattern of violence. this is sort of like the triumvirate, right? If you get these three patterns of behavior in place, you got to separate these people. They don't have any business being in the same house at all. Now, if you add in choking, and this is special, the FBI, they put out a white paper on the connection, the probability of death in a relationship where choking is a part of the behavior pattern. There's something about someone who's willing to choke their partner that they believe suggests that that person is really high in psychopathy, that they have no attachment to their partner. It's just like a transactional relationship. Even in relationships where they're choking, but it's a part of like a fetish, kind of sexual fetish behavior, even in that case, dramatic risk, increased risk of death by your partner. So if your partner has choked you either out of frustration and anger or some kind of like fetish type sexual behavior, you got to get out of there. Like, save yourself, because that's the big four. That those four in place: perceived loss of control, dissatisfaction, pattern of violence, and specifically choking, either sexual or otherwise, you're done. That's it. You are in a dangerous situation that is correlated with death. Even one choking event signals imminent harm. And how many women has it come out later that the man that killed them was also choking them during sex? Methamphetamine use is another correlation probability that was established by the FBI, their research. Methamphetamine is the only drug that is correlated to death. So if you're around anyone using methamphetamine, you could die because it's such a potent stimulant. And people are not okay when they're using meth. Hitler was using meth later on. The doctors were injecting him with it, but it made him crazy. Abrupt shifts in mood, substance use, mental health crisis, nearly across the board. If there's alcohol or drug use, they got to be separated. That's a almost automatic thing. And then high impulsivity combined with substance abuse, that takes you right back to the methamphetamine problem. So again, I can't stress this enough. General dissatisfaction, a perceived loss of control, feeling like you are being controlled by other people or circumstances that you can't get out of. A pattern of violence, pushing, hitting. And then the big one, if there's choking, you have got to save yourself and get out of that house, period. Same thing with meth. If meth is there, you got to go. Can't stick around. So specific to the perpetrator of violence, a refusal to accept the end of the relationship coupled with persistent contact, i.e. stalking, you're in a dangerous situation. Look, if you break up with someone and they spend, a week calling you and begging and coming to the house and all that, okay, that's pretty normal, right? It's pretty natural. They're trying to convince you and whatnot. If you're 6 months in and when you go to a restaurant, the ex-partner is looking through the window, or they're sitting in the back seat of your car waiting for you to get in your car after you finish eating, you're in a dangerous situation. You've got to find some help. And the cops are not going to listen to you 9 times out of 10. So do everything that you can to get a restraining order, because a restraining order has teeth. It has legal teeth. And if you just look out your window and he's standing in front of your house, he hadn't even knocked on the door, you call the police and he will be arrested on sight. On sight. You've got to get a restraining order if he's following you around, if he's coming into the house unannounced, even a month, 2 months after you've made it clear you're finished. And what do we know Barry Morphew was doing? Who remembers? Even though Barry was essentially sharing a house with Shoshona in Salida, he even moved one of the big giant rocks into her front yard for her. They were in essence living together. The people that were working around Barry knew that they were sharing this house. He was apparently, later on it came out that he was actually paying for the rent on that house. He was staying gone sometimes a month at a time from the mountain house. He would just pop in unannounced, and they wouldn't really know when he was going to be coming in. And so the phone calls that occurred during this time period, the week or two before Suzanne went missing, and then in the days after, it was like Barry was trying to give this signal that they were together, that they were living together, and it was normal, and they were sharing soup together. And they were having steak dinners on one plate with one fork and one knife because they were living as one. They were so in love. And they had great sex. It's all a lie. None of that was true. It was all bullshit. It was all a lie. So the phone calls, we'll do another live where we're going to go through the phone calls that Martin Smallwood and AK organized all this data. It's just shocking what they were able to do. The phone calls are so telling. There were no text messages between Barry and Suzanne in the weeks leading up to this. They did not call each other. They did not text each other. They were living separate lives. She was on the phone constantly with Jeff Libler. Jeff had her heart. And Barry was with Shoshona, and everybody knew that in town. They were not together. Macy had moved out of the house. She was living with her boyfriend's family. She was not there. It was really just Suzanne. And I think when he was gone, I don't think she cared that much. She was ready to be finished. I have a strong feeling that Macy might turn on Barry if she hasn't already. St. Elmo, I won't be surprised. Now, if Mallory does, I'm going to be blown away. I don't think she will ever abandon Barry. Never. That is her rock. Barry is her foundation. But I think Macy was living at home. She could see what was happening. She could see what was happening. And maybe she'll get to a place where she can welcome a relationship with Suzanne's family and friends. I hope that she can, because I think that would be healthy for her. But Mallory was gone to school, and all her interactions, all her memories were when Dad and Mom were together and everything was okay. So she's ride or die. She's Barry all the way, 100%. All right. Dissatisfaction manifests as constant blaming, demonizing, or dehumanizing the partner. So we've already talked about the level of dehumanizing that Barry was to Suzanne in multiple ways, calling her the body. Blaming. So he made a terrible mess of his company. There's all kinds of evident, like documents, receipts. He was always in a lawsuit of some sort, whether he was suing other people or they were suing him. There was always problems. When Suzanne made a billing error, he blamed and came down really hard on her. And she apologized and apologized and apologized. So this man is treating you really in a horrible way, to the point that you really needed someone to tell you to get away from him, that he was probably dangerous, that there were enough red flags, special red flags, that would make most psychiatrists or psychologists really nervous about Barry. But you're apologizing to him about making a billing error, apologizing over and over and over. So again, the whole point of doing this is, in a dangerousness assessment, there's very specific things that we look for. Were some of those red flags there for Barry and Suzanne, knowing what we know now in hindsight? And I think this, again, was another one of those pre-existing factors that was definitely there. Now look at this one: financial ruin, job loss, legal troubles. This was a family that was awash in these stressors. Now you may say, are you crazy? They had a $2 million house in Indiana. They had a $2 million house in Colorado, although there was, money that they owed on the house. They didn't outright own the whole $2 million. But they had a nice, like something like maybe $600,000 equity in that house. But the Noblesville house was paid off. So that was a big old chunk of money, but it was wrapped up in real estate. It wasn't liquid. It wasn't something that they could get their hands on in a short period of time. He had a ton of legal problems related to work. And his company was just staying right on the verge of failing. And if he had not had very wealthy friends, people giving him work, it could have failed long before this, right? I think it's a really interesting fact that as soon as Suzanne goes missing, as soon as he now has access unencumbered to her money, he brings his work license up to date. He literally had no license to be able to work in Colorado. It was something like $35,000 that he had to pay to the state of Colorado to get his work license. Crazy, isn't it? So was he experiencing financial ruin, potential financial ruin, job loss, legal troubles? You bet. Absolutely. And then the last one, lack of social support and isolation from community resources. I think we do focus a lot on Suzanne being isolated. However, as soon as she moved to Salida, she did find her a church home and immediately began making friends at church, volunteering, and making her a place where she would belong, where people would know her and accept her and love her. I think it was really bad for Barry when he left Indiana, because he's such an introvert, because he's so cringy and he's so socially clumsy. I think leaving the church leaving the community that had always known him and accepted him for who he was, I don't think Barry made friends so easy when he got to Colorado. And I think the group of people that he did end up making friends with were a rough group of people, not the type of people he would have had as friends in Colorado. In Indiana. So I look at this, the lack of social support and isolation. I think Suzanne was trying to develop that. She had a relationship with Jeff that was good. She maintained these very important friendships with the girls that she was best friends with in high school and college. They were on the phone together every day. She was active in her community. She was already well loved there. When I went to the preliminary hearing, there was a lady there that came up and struck up a conversation with me. And she later, in the conversation, first we just began just talking. And then she started becoming emotional and was sharing personal, intimate information about her relationship with Suzanne. And I stopped her and I explained to her, I have a YouTube channel. I have been talking about the disappearance of Suzanne. I'm here because of the YouTube channel, but I will not in any way reference you at all. Like, I wanted that to be out, right? And she then corrected me. She said, no, she said, I know what you're doing, and I want you to put this on your channel. I want this information to come out. And then she went on to tell me how close their relationship was, that it wasn't just she being friends with Suzanne, but that it was a scenario where it was Suzanne and Barry were good friends with she and her husband. Barry would talk to her husband, and she spent a great deal of time with Suzanne. They did a lot together. They went shopping together. They just did coffee together. They just hung out together, just friends, right? Without the boys there. She said that, and she did cry. She did get emotional. And she said that Barry, she and her husband supported Barry until it came out that he was saying that she was using drugs. And that when he began to tell people that she was using drugs, that she was having trouble with drugs and alcohol, that she and her husband were shocked. And she said that the reason that they were so completely shocked and in grief about Barry saying these things is because she spent nearly every day with Suzanne, and not once had she ever seen Suzanne when she would slur her words or seem like she was under the influence of anything. And that Suzanne was, that she was like a health food person, that she absolutely prioritized her diet, eating healthy, like eating an anti-cancer type diet, and that she was constantly exercising, all different kinds of exercise, not the bicycle riding. She said that Suzanne had not been doing the bicycle riding very long, but that she was very health conscious and going to work out, walking, lifting weights. So she felt like her own experience, seeing Suzanne daily, spending time with her, being friends with Suzanne's friends, the story that Barry was putting out about the drug use was just not true. It was just simply not true. And she and her husband interpreted it, that what she told me, they interpreted that as a sign of guilt, that Barry must have done it. What other reason would there be for him to lie and misrepresent Suzanne? So this is kind of paradoxical. There's a lot about Barry that is paradoxical, but this is paradoxical because Barry, his mask that he developed was that he was this very Christian and pious man, and that he didn't drink, and he didn't run around with women, he didn't do all these sinful things, correct? But he seemed to like cocaine. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you go from telling your wife you're not allowed to grow hemp, a cash crop, on your land because it's related to a drug, THC, but I'm going to justify using cocaine of all things? Really weird, right? Very, very strange. And maybe he justified it somehow with the whole working out. Maybe that was something he said, well, it's not really a drug for intoxication. It's a drug that helps me stay healthy because I have more energy and I can lift weights and I can, run around up in the mountains. So I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he justified himself, but he definitely would not allow her to grow hemp. And he complained about her using drugs. And then he turned around and used cocaine, apparently. If the rumors, people that know him, if what they've told me is true, these people that know him, so if they're telling the truth, apparently he had a taste for cocaine. He used it to work, not recreationally. Yeah, that would make sense, right? I can't remember exactly, but as soon as, what the other thing is, I know I just stopped myself, but I had a thought. Barry would have been, right? Am I right? Yeah. He would have been a child of the 80s and 90s, right? He would have graduated high school, maybe like 84 or 85 possibly. And then he would have been doing the baseball stuff before the 90s. Yeah. So the reason cocaine was big in the 80s. And all of the the young professionals, the ones that were working 60 hours a week, they were doing that by using cocaine to keep them awake and keep their brain sharp. So maybe he did just justify it that it was a high performance drug, and that was the reason he was taking it, that he was not taking it to get high or to, I don't know, dissociate, he was doing it so he could be a better version of himself. I could see Barry making that argument. What do y'all think? Do y'all think he could justify it like that? Put a 1 if you think Barry could justify the cocaine use. Put a 2 if you think, no, it's weird that he was using cocaine. Yeah, exactly like people misuse Adderall. Same exact thing. Yes. Elmo, I agree with you. No, Karen thinks it's still weird. I think it's paradoxical. I think for a man to come off as being so anti-drugs and so anti-alcohol, I think it's very strange that he would use cocaine. I totally agree. People use pretzel logic to justify most anything. Absolutely, Critter. And I am convinced that he convinced himself that he was acting as the avenging arm of God, that Suzanne had abandoned her biblical duties of being a mom and being a wife, and that she had committed infidelity. And, the Mormons believe if you commit infidelity, you got to pay the ultimate price if you want forgiveness, right? That's part of the reason why Jodi Arias killed Travis Alexander. I think it was sacrificial. But Yeah, I think Barry totally convinced himself he wanted the money. I'm convinced of that. He wanted the wealth. But I think he played, mental gymnastics to get himself to the point to actually do the dirty deed. I think he used his mask. I think he convinced himself that this is what God wanted, and Suzanne earned this judgment, and he's so sorry that he didn't want to do this, but there was no other way to save her mortal soul. Sure, I totally can see it. Now, is he really a pious Christian religious man? Hell no. Absolutely not. But that's the outward appearance that he has cultivated. I think that Barry Morphew and Chris Watts are very similar creatures. I think they have zero personality. They have no idea who they are. And they don't really feel any true love or attachment for anyone. They're just going through the motions. They're watching other people. They're looking to see what's the right way to act, and then they act that way. Totally believe it. So there's not any one specific indicator, risk factor, red flag for which relationships will actually become violent, especially violent to the point of death. But there is an interactive and cumulative effect for each of these stressors. There is the initial triad, but then if you add in choking by itself is an indicator of imminent death. Methamphetamine by itself, it's an indicator of imminent death. So this is one of the more common instruments that's used for when you are doing a dangerousness assessment. This is one of the more common instruments used to gather data so that you can assess then the model of dangerousness and get a predictability of statistical likelihood of imminent harm. It comes with a calendar, and on that calendar each day you mark, was there slapping, pushing, lasting pain? Was there punching, kicking, bruises, cuts with pain? Was there beating up? That would include severe contusions, abrasions, broken bones, burns is a big one. The fourth level is threat of using a weapon. And never, ever, ever forget Barry Morphew standing in the closet. His wife is backed up into the corner, and he has his handgun out, and he is not holding that gun against Suzanne's temple. He is holding that gun against his own temple. And he's saying to her, he is terrorizing her by saying, this is what you want, isn't it? I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill myself. You did this. You drove me to this. That was abuse. He was engaging in violent abuse when he did that to her. Just because the gun was pointed at himself and not her, it doesn't mean that it wasn't a violent threat and abuse. So threat to use a weapon on the partner, to use the weapon on yourself, or to use a weapon on a larger group of people, absolutely a huge red flag. It's a huge risk factor that someone would even voice it, much less go through the motions and act it out. Let's see. And then, of course, something that would send you to an emergency room, that would get a 4 rating. And then a 5 is when you actually use the weapon, like taking a gun and shooting it, but not at the person, but maybe moving it a little to the side and shooting it in a threatening way. Or taking a knife and cutting someone's arm taking a cigarette, burning the skin, that is a 5. So you take the calendar and you take these numbered violent occurrences or red flags, risk factors, and each day you record what you experienced, how you lived. No, today was a good day. I got a slap across the face, but it didn't hurt and it didn't leave a mark. In that case, you put a 1. Or, oh, today was a bad day. You know, he cut my leg. That gets a 4. And you do that for every block in the calendar. You just keep up. And I mean, I've seen some calendars that would have a 1, 2, 3, and 4 on it. It's terrible. It's devastating. Obviously, the higher the number, you know, you count when you're adding up the final tally on the instrument. If they've recorded like a 1 and a 3 and a 4, you count the 4. And some of the examples of the questions that are on this instrument is, has the physical violence increased in severity or frequency in the past year? And we always assess too, in the past 2 weeks and in the past 3 months. So those are, because that will give you an imminent problem. Does he even own a gun? Everybody now is being asked by their medical providers, do you have guns in the home? That is a safety factor. They're not trying to get in your business. They're not trying to steal your firearms. They're trying to assess, are you in danger of, or somebody in your family in danger of being killed? So they'll ask, do you own a gun? Have you left him after living together during the past year? So if you're having trouble and you've already separated but come back, you're now at an increased level of death. Does your spouse have a job? If your spouse is unemployed, that is one of those cumulative factors that by itself, it does not predict violence. Combined with these foundational red flags, it becomes a stressor, it becomes an agitator, and it could be a catalyst for increased violence. Is there a history of him having used a violent or a lethal weapon against you or someone you know? Maybe like a previous spouse. We saw that in the case of Peterson, the cop in, was he in Illinois, maybe? I don't remember. That was a very old case. Does he threaten to kill you? Does he threaten to kill himself? Has he avoided being arrested for domestic violence? Like who? Who did we see avoid? Oh, my girlfriend's crazy. She can take this medicine and it'll help her not be crazy. Gabby Petito, right? It's just heartbreaking video. Another risk factor, again, on its own, it is not correlated to violence, but as a cumulative stressor, it becomes a part of an interactive effect. Is there a child living in the home that does not belong to him? It's a huge risk factor. Has he ever forced you to have sex? And here's the big one. Number 10 should be written in red. Has he ever choked you? If he has choked you, you got to save yourself. You got to get out now. Don't wait. Does he use illegal drugs? THC, benzodiazepines, opiates, some like anti-seizure. Those things are not really associated with threats of violence, but amphetamines of any kind, even Adderall, you're at an increased risk of violence. And what do we know about Barry? Barry liked cocaine. It's what his friends said. So, is he an alcoholic or problem drinker? Does he control most or all of your daily activities? Does he tell you who you can be friends with, when you can see your family, or how much money you can use, when you can take a car? Man, that's such a big red flag. Never stay in a relationship with a man who is controlling your movement, your physical movement, in my opinion. Is he jealous? Does he follow you and spy on you? How many of these these were actually active with Barry at the time that Suzanne went missing? I mean, it's chilling, right? Have you ever been beaten while you were pregnant? Did he have infidelity while you were pregnant? That's another indicator of future violence. And then here's another one too. Do you believe he's capable of killing you? You wouldn't believe the number of women that say, yes, I think he is capable of killing me, and they're living with them. They don't leave them. But they'll sit there and tell you, yeah, I think he would kill me if he got the chance. It's so hard to make sense of, right? But people, when they've grown up, complex trauma, it trains them and teaches them to tolerate things that healthy people would not tolerate. Levels of dangerousness are defined by, if you get a score of 0 to 7, variable danger, 9 to 13 is considered trouble. If you are in a 14 to 17, you're whoever you're working with, whether it's police officer, a doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist, somebody at a domestic violence clinic, if you get a score over 14, they're just going to say you have to get out. You can't stay. You can't do that. If you're at 18, they're going to be hiding you in a facility that is designed for women that are in imminent danger. Okay, so that is that. It was a lot, wasn't it? I'm sorry it was so long. I want so badly to hear and learn more. I feel like I could teach this. I am being triggered and I'll have to replay the rest in small increments. I'm so sorry, Arctic Cat. I'm so sorry that it's triggery. It's hard, it is. Jules, remember Barry was said to put, yes, he did, Black Rose, that's right. There were duplicates of Suzanne's missing journal and Bible. And you do have to ask yourself, why did Barry need to destroy her journals? What had she written in there that he was so scared of? There were plenty of people that knew that they were not getting along. There were plenty of people that knew that he was staying with Shoshana. Some people knew that he was paying her rent. There was Jeff Libler. He knew that he was having an affair with Suzanne. Definitely Macy was living in the house. She knew what was going on with her parents. What was in there that he had to destroy it? What was she writing about that he had to get rid of at all costs? Wouldn't you just love it? It would just know, and it's lost now. You'll never get it back unless they come across something in a computer or something. I forgot about that. Rose, didn't he hold a gun to his head and tell Suzanne? Yeah, he did, Nancy. He sure did. Arctic Cat, I hope that, let's do, now that we've gotten through that, let's change the topic, okay? So we're going to move away from that. All right. And let's go ahead and get back to this and we'll finish this out, okay? There we go. Sorry about that.
And we're never going to stop looking for our mom.
And so remember, Macy is really focused. She didn't say, I support my dad. I love my dad. He's innocent. She stayed totally away from that. She said, Linda Stanley, find my mom. I'm never going to quit looking for my mom.
Court filings say that while authorities are close to discovering Suzanne's body, weather has complicated the efforts. The location where Suzanne's body is believed to be has 5 feet of snow concealing it. But the family's attorney says authorities have mishandled the case and are planning to file a complaint against the DA.
And if you want to honor Suzanne and you want to honor the daughters, go find Suzanne.
The DA's office telling ABC.
Well, Isis Eton, it is very interesting that you so forcefully said in this interview, if you want to honor Suzanne Morphew, go find her. And oopsie, Isis, when they did in fact find Suzanne, you took off to Vermont or Connecticut or something. Why'd you do that? Why did you stop representing this man that you felt so certain was innocent? Oh, because he wasn't going to get his $15 million payout?
ABC News, they and law enforcement have been diligently searching for Suzanne Morphew since she was reported missing, and that they are continuing to do so.
Prosecutors need to be held responsible, and they need to pay for the damage they've caused.
I mean, this woman cannot get the dollar signs out of her head. That's all she can think about. The minute they dropped those charges, I guarantee you this woman turned around and looked at Barry and said, we're going to make a fortune. Now, that's a guess on my part. I don't know if that's what happened. But nearly every statement she made after the charges were dropped, she's talking about money. Nearly every interview, she talking about how much money they got to be paid because Barry, was suspected of killing his wife.
To Barry, which is frankly nearly irreparable, because it's hard for anybody to believe that Barry is not who they claim he was.
Oh yeah, well, and now that they found his wife, Isis, and her femur was full of BAM. You're right. It does seem like Barry is exactly who we thought he was. All right. Chipmunk chasing. Oh, this is Dr. Todd Grande. He's hilarious. I love Dr. Grande.
This is Dr. Grande.
He's so funny. I haven't listened to his chipmunk. I don't know if he strikes channels or not, so I don't want to show his stuff, but he's a hoot. If you haven't ever watched him, you need to watch him. He's great. He is I think he's got a doctorate in counseling, or is he social work or counseling? And I think he's a professor, but yeah, he's a funny guy. Very dry sense of humor. Really, really funny. All right. There we go. Were there red flags that Suzanne Morphew was in danger? What say you? If you think that there were definite signs of what was to come, put a 1. And if you think there was no way anyone could have predicted it, put a 2. I wonder if the current prosecution team has paid a visit to the snow-covered spot to look for signs of possible decomposition. Yeah, they need to go look for an actual composting pallet. Signs. Black Rose said lots of red flags. Yeah. According to an actual formal type of assessment, dangerousness assessment, Barry would have fulfilled a lot of those risk factors. And don't get me wrong either. Barry, it's a sad tale. It's horrible for Suzanne, no doubt. And it's horrible for the kids. and for Barry's mom, all those people that love Barry and Suzanne. But it's also horrible for Barry, isn't it? It's also horrible that he got pushed. He allowed himself to get pushed back with his back against the wall because he let something like money become so important to him. He lost sight of what was really important. It's like a diary, but on a phone. There's a section on phones called Journal. You could actually talk into the phone. It records your daily diary. It even adds pictures if you want that you've taken. Man, everybody that's in a stressed marriage needs to be making a document, an electronic memorial of what they experience, just in case, because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Okay, so I think, I feel like I've been online all day today. How often can a professional actually convince someone at risk to separate? I know there are finances and kids, but with a legit assessment tool, do they accept the risk? Yeah, and it's more than just the tool. You're going through it's an intensive process, really. There's a lot, you're gathering a lot of anecdotal information, you're going back and gathering historical information, but the dangerousness assessment, the document, the instrument that I put up, this helps people that are experiencing it. This helps people abandon their justifications and deal with cold hard facts. That people that have been through complex trauma, they're capable of withstanding a lot of unpleasant stimulus. They can justify staying in a relationship with someone who's mistreating them because they have a pretty house. They can justify staying in a relationship where someone is harming them because they don't want to be alone. When you've lived complex trauma, it's a training ground for, yeah, I know you're being mistreated and you're miserable, but it's not so bad. It could be a lot worse on the other side of the fence. So they learn to just accept it, and they don't have the confidence, the courage to say things got to be better out there. I'm stuck here in this abusive relationship. And because they have human beings have a lot of capacity to rationalize the things that we do, what we think we want, it can be really hard to accept, hey, I'm an abused person. I'm an abused spouse. We are living in a marriage or in a relationship that is actually classified as domestic violence. For some people, it's really, really hard to accept that, to believe that even. And when you allow them to keep up with this calendar for a month or a week, some of them it doesn't even take them a week, and they're like, my God, I never realized that this was happening to me. But you let them see the visual representation of what their day-to-day experience is, and then they see the actual score, and that is the score being something that they can kind of compare. How bad is it for me compared to what another woman is experiencing? And when they see that, then they're like, oh my gosh, how did I accept this? Like, how did I get to this place that I'm just willing to live with this? And so this, believe it or not, this instrument, along with a very thorough professional evaluation, has saved a lot of people, and it saved a lot of families. You can separate people, you can get them away from one another. Each of them get into treatment with their own professional. And then once they deal with all of the issues that are creating this level of danger, then they may even be able to actually then reunite and come back together. I don't think his PhD is clinical psychology. I don't think that is what he does have a PhD, but I can't remember if it was. Seems like I don't remember. He is incredibly well educated. He's an absolute professional. He knows his stuff. Sometimes it's a matter of letters only as to the differences among professions. But I remember being surprised because he didn't have he does have a PhD, but I remember it wasn't clinical psychology. It was something else. I just don't remember. It's on his channel. He's got it written down somewhere on his channel. So translating something to a score helps break through the denial. It certainly can. The calendar serves as a visual representation, which is sometimes easier to internalize. But for other people, it's the ability to compare themselves against what other people are experiencing. And that can be kind of shocking and eye-opening too. And then they're more open and willing to get help. You get so used to the abuse that you forget what is considered normal, and your self-esteem is driven to the ground. And so the gaslighting to me is one of the worst part of the processes because it causes you to doubt yourself and everything else. But you've got to have a good objective assessment. There's got to be a full understanding about how the violence is manifesting itself, when it started, what special changes in some of these risk factors or stressors happened. Yeah, the dangerousness evaluations are they're really humbling, because you recognize that if you make a mistake, bad things could happen. So when you're doing a dangerousness assessment, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's suicide, whether it is even like people that will make threats, like high school kids making threats to the greater student body. A lot of schools kick the kids out so they can't come back till they get their evaluation, and a psychiatrist or psychologist is willing to sign off and say, there's a low chance of him acting out. It's a scary to be responsible for that assessment. You are very careful about what you're doing. You are very mindful. You are all in. You are not worrying about what's going to be cooked for dinner. Barry is really behind bars, but he's not cute like my Barry behind bars. Yeah, Yvette. We went to Barry's wedding. They were in a cage. That's right, Nancy. I had a wedding for Barry behind bars and Fancy behind bars. And the ones that were the witnesses were the two cats. So he had a PhD in counselor education and supervision. See, that's what I kept thinking, that it had something to do with counseling. Yeah. But it is a PhD. I mean, he is a professor. He must have come from the educational background, then I would think. Yeah, but he's a practitioner. A PhD is a scientist practitioner degree for those types of like social work and whatnot. All right. There you have it. Whew, we got through it. What's the next video going to be about? Today I was Dr. Karen. What is the next one going to be about? What do y'all want to talk about next with old Barry? I haven't really been too interested in what's gone on with Lily and Jack Sullivan in Canada, I know that A Balance or AB, he has really been covering that. So I like that, but I'm going to stay really kind of focused in on Barry as much as I can. There's definitely a ton of content to go back and kind of dredge it all back up and bring it to the forefront. So, and the next time I go to Colorado, we're going to take a drive down to Moffett and do some recording. And I don't know what the cell service is like down there. It's not too far from town. I don't even think it's like maybe a couple of miles. So and it's wide open. So it may have really good cell service. If it does, I'll go live from the tree. There's no fences out here. This wide open space is truly. But this picture that you're looking at is actually the location where Suzanne was discovered. And when, the song I named it One Lone Tree, it's pretty shocking when you see it. It's pretty humbling. And I thought it was really crazy when the Reverend Donna Serafina, she did her reading regarding Suzanne. She talked with Andy Mormon but also a couple of the guys that knew Barry, that worked with Barry. Cassidy was one of them. And, in her reading, she says, Suzanne is by a really strange looking tree. It's unlike any tree, really, that it's not normal. And now from this direction, you can't really tell. It looks like a regular tree. Okay. But if you go on straight so that the tree is, how do I describe this? If you keep driving until the tree is directly 90 degrees to your right from the road, you can clearly see that the tree looks like it's split in half. And I just, when she did the reading and she was talking about this tree, it didn't sound like anything. She did the same thing with Tylee, JJ and Tylee, talking about, the water, the tree and whatnot. And you just don't think anything about it. And then when they found her, and we didn't know exactly where it was, but we were all, all the YouTube people that have followed this case, everybody was looking at their Google Maps and they were looking at Moffett. And we had a couple of news reports where you could see like the background, and everybody was trying to match up what was in those broadcasts with what we were seeing on Google Maps. But you know what? When I saw that tree, it popped in my head about Donna Serafina. And I looked at that tree and I said, holy hell, she did it again? I was blown away. I'm blown away by it. Even now, I told her that. I told her, you will never find anyone more of a non-believer than myself. I do not believe in tarot cards. I don't believe in psychics. I don't believe that we have the ability to read minds. I am a non-believer. Okay? I don't believe it. It's not real. But I don't know what is going on with Donna Serafina. I'm a believer. She is able to do something. And, I am a psychologist, and I am open to the idea that we only use a very small percentage of our overall brain power. I know that we have connections to our ancestors through genetic endowment. I know that I've had circumstances myself where the phone would ring and like I would instantly know who it was calling me. Always like my mom or my dad or my husband or my kids, always somebody really close to me, right? So if we can have those small kinds of experiences that seem to be a little bit, I'm going to say metacognitive, bigger than simple cognition, maybe she does have some connection. She claims that she has a connection to her deceased daughter who helps with this thing that she can do. But no, you're not, there is no mistaking this setting, the tree. When Reverend Donna Serafina started talking about the tree, I was just like, yeah, well, you could be buried anywhere and there's going to be a tree nearby, right? I didn't know about Saguache County. There is no tree nearby. Make no mistake about it. This is the tree. Truly. And then I had the Google Maps, and when I started moving, up closer to the tree and it split, I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? She did it again. How? So I'm a non-believer, but I believe Donna Serafina, and I don't know what I believe. I don't know what it is. I can't give it a name, but she did it twice. She actually did it more than twice, but these were two very specific circumstances that I was there listening to the live when she did the reading, and only later did it come out that it was so accurate. I experienced it. And I don't know how else I don't know what it is, but it is magnificent it is very humbling. I don't know. So, I will agree. I don't know everything, and I could be absolutely wrong being a non-believer. I could be, but I believe her because she did it twice when I was watching. So there's that. That would be awesome. Thank you. Wow, that looks desolate. It's kind of, it's actually very, very beautiful, like really beautiful, but it's its own ecosystem. If you look to the right, probably, I don't know, maybe 500 yards, maybe, there is the interstate, and it's very flat, straight road through there. So there's the interstate. So Suzanne's body was actually between this county highway and the interstate. It's a dirt road that is a crossover, but there's lots of dirt roads back in there. This wasn't the only one. And you can see she wasn't very far off of the main road. I do think that Barry put her there because of the marker, because you had a natural marker, and there is no other marker anywhere around there in terms of it being natural. So on the right side, 500 yards, not feet, but yards, there's the interstate. And then there's a escarpment, like a kind of old West looking, kind of like the Grand Canyon type look. It's off to the right. But then on the left, you got lots and lots of flat land, several miles. And then you have the San Juan Mountains. And so the San Juan Mountains just shoot straight up out of the flat desert plains. So it's mountains on the left and open meadow and kind of desert escarpment on the right. And then this strangely flat expanse that I didn't even get all the sky, because if I had gotten any more of the sky, you wouldn't have even noticed the tree. So to be able to be there and actually going live and showing you horizon to horizon, you're going to be amazed. You're going to be amazed when you think about Donna Serafina describing this. You're going to be amazed. And it's also devastatingly sad. It's just so tragic what Barry did. That it's so tragic that his own ego was so fragile that he was more afraid of being broke. He was more afraid of being a nobody than he was afraid of spending the rest of his life in prison. Think about that. His fear was being a nobody, not spending the rest of his life in jail. It's really hard to wrap your head around it. He's a very smart man. He is a real smart guy. But he does not have a connection to people. He's not like us. He doesn't crave to socialize, and no, none of that. And Suzanne even says she doesn't even know what she was thinking. What she says something like, I don't know what my 18-year-old self was thinking when I got with Barry. That they had nothing in common, that he doesn't talk to her, they don't have fun together, there's nothing between them. She didn't even know they were strangers to each other. It is as devastating of a story as anything. It's just terrible. What about remote viewing? Our government used it, right? What was that movie? Men That Stare at Goats. It's a great movie. Yeah, they do remote viewing. Our government has played with all of that. Hitler was deep into the occult. He had his military doing all kinds of experiments with the occult. I'm not saying Donna Serafina is doing a occult. When I say occult, I'm talking about like extrasensory perception, remote viewing, starting fires with your mind, moving items with your mind, past lives, all of that. Do you have a photo of the truck with the antlers hanging out of it? I was looking for it. I do have it, Yvette. You would not believe how much Morphew stuff I actually have. It's on an external hard drive. I haven't been through it in years, and I've kind of been putting off like actually getting in it and kind of going through everything and looking. But I think, because I've also got on that hard drive, I've also got like a bunch of Delphi stuff. I think the picture with the antlers is in with my Delphi stuff. So I'll look for it tomorrow. I only have to work tomorrow like 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. Anyway, I'll have a lot of time tomorrow too. Today was great. I only worked 2 hours today. Oh, it was so great. It was so great. I have got to quit working every day. It was ridiculous, Yvette. He looked like a man that was on the run. He looked like an outlaw, the outlaw Josie Wales, and the regulators were hot on his heels. He looked like he was terrified when he left. It was a weird thing. She was 23 when she married Barry. Yep. Yeah, but her statement was, I don't know what my 18-year-old self was saying, something like that, which would have coincided when they started dating, right? But she was very sick, and he made himself available to the whole family. He was the caretaker for the whole family. He made himself indispensable. And I think it was said that he was 2 years old. Was it 2 years? I thought he's born in 67, I think. 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. I think it's 7 years. 4 years. There were 4 years difference. Barry was 57, Suzanne was 54. Yep. So you're right, 3 or 4 years. His birthday was October and hers was April. 4 years. Okay. Thank you, Black Rose. Yeah, I've been here a long time tonight. Barry Morphew is the same age as my ex, and both have the same characteristics. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, Aurora. It's not fun, was it? What was wrong with Suzanne when she met him health-wise? Cancer. Yeah, she had cancer. There was some misinformation being put out by a big channel about that. But yeah, the cancer, and he made himself indispensable to the family and to Suzanne. He provided her companionship when she was sick, helped her when she was so sick. I mean, he was being a really good guy. You know, they needed him. They needed his help. It was devastating what she was going through with the treatment. And I think that gave him identity. I think that was something that saved him after he lost the shot at the professional baseball team. And I think that as the years went by and Suzanne got healthier and stronger, I think it made Barry uncomfortable and it undermined his identity. And then finally, in Colorado, when she finally came to the realization that this just wasn't going to work and they couldn't be together anymore, I think it completely blew up his identity. And the only thing at that point, he was thinking is, okay, well, my daughters are adults, so I've lost them. I don't have a wife. I've lost her. I'm going to lose my house. If she takes half the money, I'm not even going to have any seed money to start a new business. I've blown my business up. It's no longer functioning. If she leaves and takes half the money, then I will forever be a nobody. And I think for Barry, that was the utter and complete kiss of death. He could not tolerate being average because of the way he grew up. And he justified in his head that Suzanne had to be sacrificed because she committed infidelity. And that got him all the money. Yeah, Nancy. Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. No, she did not have breast cancer. She had follicular. Hold on. Yeah, follicular lymphoma. And I couldn't remember if she had Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She had follicular lymphoma and Hodgkin's lymphoma. It is follicular is like a blood cancer. It actually was shocking that she beat it the first time in and of itself. It was shocking that she beat it to begin with. It's an incredibly painful, the follicular lymphoma, not the Hodgkin's, but the follicular lymphoma is a really painful illness. It was shocking that she beat it the first go around. And then, sadly, it emerged again when she's under an enormous amount of stress. I'm telling you, there's a link, I think, my opinion, between stress and cancer. And I think we should all work really hard toward being chill. We need to relax. Things I can control, things I cannot control. Focus on the stuff you can control and forget about the stuff that you have no control over. Cut yourself a break, people. All right. How is that for lecturing? I don't need to lecture y'all on health. Y'all know how to be healthy. All right, we are going to go one more time. Thank you guys so much for just hanging out and kind of sticking. We have been taught. Oh, wow. They did so JD Vance, they called him to the Senate so that he could be the tie-breaking vote on the big, beautiful bill. So Trump's bill just passed. That happened without me even being aware of it. And that kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I was not happy with the big, beautiful bill. Felt really uncomfortable with some of the provisions that were in it. Let's see. Just give me 1 second. I do appreciate y'all hanging out with me on Saturday night. Or are we on Friday night? Are we Friday or Saturday? We're Saturday. And y'all never did tell me what the next topic is that you want to do. Please, while I'm sitting here thinking about it, please hit the subscribe button. I am forever in your debt if you will subscribe. And hit the thumbs up if you don't mind. Yep. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe and hit the subscribe button. And when you hit the subscribe button, you've got to say that you want all notifications. And that way, when I go live, because I don't have a regular upload schedule like a lot of the YouTubers do, I just have to do it when I have time because, like you heard me say, I work 7 days a week. So if you will hit the subscribe and hit all notifications, then you'll know whenever I put something new up. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Do the YouTubey thing. Do the YouTubey thing and subscribe, all notifications, and hit the thumbs up. And if you enjoyed this, share it on your social media so that other people can find it, because YouTube is definitely not sharing. So that could be a real big help if you would do that for me. Okay. I hope you guys sleep very well tonight. Think about relaxing, nice things, and I'll figure out a topic for tomorrow. I don't know what it'll be, but we'll talk about something Morphew related. All right. Y'all sleep good tonight. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Black Road. Yeah, I agree, Critter Watcher. I didn't like some of the judicial stuff.
Barry Morphew had it all. A millionaire's golden crown. Big house in the Rockies. King of a small town. But darkness brewed in his heart.
Critter Watcher.
A
Thank you
secret
for the
cold
super
as
sticker.
stone.
Thank you so much.
Suzanne went missing.
I really, really
Her
appreciate
fate he
you.
would never own. In a shallow grave marked by one lone tree, under Colorado stars where no one would see. With a shovel and lies, he buried his sin, but the truth has a way of creeping back in. Oh, Barry, you ran to Cave Creek, Arizona, hiding in a biker bar, waiting for your secret bust. From
the name
riches
of the
to
bar
ruins,
is actually called the Hideaway.
a trailer park the road. Now you're locked in a cage, forever alone. He fled to Arizona to outrun the law. Or was it his own guilt, secret wish to be caught? With villains before him, real desert outlaws hide. The ghost of Suzanne whispers to him all through the night. Suzanne would get her justice, things would be made right. For King Barry in his camper cage, no escape from justice light. From a mansion to an airstream, his empire now shattered dreams. Barry now alone with no home, no friends, a man who's lost everything. Suzanne took her time, the chess pieces in place.
That's the bicycle.
As Barry hid in fear, Suzanne prepared her case. They would find her body abandoned in a shallow grave, and Barry's murderous acts revealed by an insane path. Oh, Barry, you ran to Cave Creek, Arizona, hiding in a biker bar, a place that made him feel ever lonelier. From riches to ruins, a trailer park the road. Now you're locked in a cage, forever alone. In a cell with killers, thieves by your side. No more mountain sunsets, no place to hide. The elk still wander where Suzanne was laid. Her light shines bright, it will never fade.
So sad, isn't it? Really, really sad.
Suzanne Morphew, 10/17/67.
Thank you, sir. And it does look like you are here today on a warrant from the state of Colorado, and they have indicated that they want to extradite you back to the state of Colorado.
It's terrible. All right. Thank y'all for being here. I hope that you got something out of the live. And, you know, if you did, share it. Maybe somebody else be interested in listening. All right. All right. I'll be back tomorrow. See you then. Good night.